Hey guys, my name is Trevor Sullivan and welcome back to my video channel. So in earlier videos on windmill.dev, I've talked about just the overall platform, and we also created a very basic application that just uses a bash script on the back end to join together a first name and a last name. Now, I wanted to take things a little bit further in this particular video. We're going to actually integrate with an external service. There's lots of different external services that you can choose to integrate Windmill applications with, and in this particular example, we're just going to be integrating with Telegram. The Telegram is a chat application. It can be used for, personal messaging. It can be used for marketing purposes. There's a whole bunch of different use cases for Telegram. But if you are a Telegram user, you might be familiar with the concept of channels. So right over here, I've got a channel here called Trevor Software. And so I can just post messages into this channel. I could share a link to maybe one of my new videos or whatever I really want to do in this channel. And then basically this allows me to broadcast to all of the people who are following me in this particular channel. Now, another cool capability about Telegram is that you can actually create automation bots that can post messages into channels or listen for messages and take action based on those messages. So one of the things that we can do is actually set up a Telegram bot integration from our Windmill application so that our Windmill app can actually control the bot's actions inside of Telegram. To keep things really simple, we're just going to basically send a message into a Telegram channel as our custom bot user, but it's really up to you to kind of explore the Telegram APIs and see all of the different possibilities that you can integrate with in the Telegram APIs. So let's go ahead and get started with building a simple Telegram application that uses the bot APIs to send a message. Now, in order to get started, there's actually some great documentation over here in the Windmill docs over at windmill.dev/docs. And then in the search bar right up here, we can just do a search for different integrations that are available by default in Windmill. And if we just do a quick search for Telegram here, we can jump directly to the documentation for the Telegram integration. But if you scroll down on the left-hand side, you can actually see this massive list of integrations with lots and lots of external services. So feel free to use another integration if you're interested in that. But I'm just going to be sticking with the Telegram integration for now. And right here inside of the documentation for Windmill, they actually tell you exactly how to get started here with creating a bot and generating an API token for that bot. And then what we're going to do is over in our Telegram interface, we're going to go find this user called BotFather. And so this user basically allows us to manage our bot instances. And if I just do /mybots inside of this BotFather conversation, I can see a list of my bots right here. And then I can perform various actions like deleting the bot or configuring the bot to accept payments. I can set up API tokens for the bots so I can integrate other applications. And so that's what we're going to do. We're basically just going to create a bot and generate an API token for that bot. And the other thing you'll want to do is go to your channel right here and then go into the channel settings and invite a new user to your channel. So that's what we would typically do, is just invite a user to your channel, and then that bot user will be able to act as a automation user inside of that channel. All right, so what we're going to do is basically copy the token that we generated from the Telegram application in BotFather, and then we are going to go ahead and actually import that as a variable or a resource that we can use to authenticate to Telegram from an automation script. So let's go ahead and go down to our resources down here. And if we go to resources, we can just say add a new resource. And right here, we see all the different integration options. So we could just search for Telegram, choose Telegram, and then it'll just prompt you right here for your bot API token. So we'll go ahead and just plug in that API token, and then I'll give it a name like Telegram Trevor Software Bot, and click on Save. All right, so now that we've got that bot token imported into our environment here, we can go ahead and start building some automation to actually consume that particular API. So what we'll do is create a new script here, and I'll just call this Telegram send message as bot. And then what we're going to do is just choose the bash language right here. And now we can start writing some code right here in our bash shell in order to interact with the API. So what do we need as far as input parameters go? Well, this is where we need to refer to the external integrations API documentation. So in the case of Telegram, we can head over to the Telegram bot API documentation, and they tell you exactly how to authenticate to the API, what the API endpoint is right here, and how to call different methods on that API as well. So our base URL is going to be https://api.telegram.org/bot. Then we'll paste in the bot token that we get from the resource that we created, and then we specify the method that we want to call. Now, you can scroll through this massive documentation here and find all the different methods that are available, but I'm just going to do a Control F in my browser and search for the send message API call here. So this is the method that we're going to be calling from our automation script in order to send a message from our windmill application into the Telegram channel. Now, if we take a look at the input parameters that are available for the send message method here, you can see that the chat ID is a unique identifier for the target chat or the username of the target channel. Now, if you go to your channel configuration, you can set up your channel ID. So in my particular channel case, it's going to be called t.me/Trevor Software. So Trevor Software is just the channel name, and then you would use the @ as a prefix in order to specify that you're trying to point to a channel. The only other mandatory or required parameter here is going to be the text parameter that allows us to specify up to 4 kilobytes of text that we want to send to the channel. There's a whole bunch of other parameters here as well, but we're going to just focus on kind of the bare minimums for now, and then you can go ahead and customize further later on if there's any additional parameters that you want to use on the send message API. So essentially what we need to do is start by plugging in our base URL, which is right here. We'll go ahead and just copy this, and we'll bring that over into our windmill application. So I'll just do base URL equals that value right there. And then we're going to use this string inside of our script so that we can call that endpoint. But we're also going to have to tack /send message on the end here as well. So maybe what I'll do is just kind of configure this as an entire URL and just call this Telegram send URL. And then what we're going to do is need to substitute the token in here so that we can pass that in as a variable. We're also going to need to take in inputs into the bash script. So we need to know the text for the message. So that'll be our first parameter. And then our second parameter is going to be that chat ID parameter or channel. So I'll just call it channel_ID. And I'll just eliminate the default value right there. So now we have 2 nice input parameters to our bash script. We have the base URL, but now we need to retrieve the token so that we can authenticate to the Telegram APIs as our bot user. Now this is really easy to do. We just need to make sure that before the URL, where we do the substitution for this token section right here, we need to make sure that we retrieve the resource. So all we have to do in Windmill is click on that resource button. Then we find the resource that we want to use, which I believe is this Telegram Trevor Software bot right here. So we'll go ahead and just click on that. And that injects the curl command that's used to talk to the Windmill API to retrieve that token directly from the Windmill APIs. And then it pipes it into JQ so that it's going to basically just grab the raw value of that particular resource. So I'll go ahead and just assign the result of that to a variable like token, and we'll wrap it in a subshell. And I'm just going to go ahead and echo out the $token variable right here just for debugging purposes. So let's go ahead and save this as a draft. I'll plug in some dummy text and channel ID, and then we'll just do a test execution. All right, so now what you can see is that where it echoes out the token, it's actually echoing out the token as a JSON value. So the value that's coming back from the resource is a JSON object that has a token property on it, and that token property is actually going to point to the secret value of our token. So what we'll need to do is make sure that on this JQ command that's parsing our JSON response from the resources, we're going to just grab the .token property from the result right here. And so now the token variable should contain only the value of the actual token. Let's do a Control S to save that draft, and we'll test the code once again. And now you can see that we're only getting the value back from that resource. So this token variable in Bash should contain our authentication token for Telegram. So we'll just go into our variable for send URL, and we'll go ahead and just specify $token inside of that string so that Bash does its expansion on that variable and injects the token into our Telegram send URL. All right, so now I'll just eliminate this echo command that's just there for debugging and development purposes. Now we need to actually call this API here and pass in a couple of parameters, the chat ID as well as the text parameters. Now, there's a lot of different ways to call HTTP APIs on the client side. One of my favorite utilities in order to call HTTP APIs from a simple Bash script is the HTTPie or HTTP-IE utility, which is developed in Python. So if you don't have that installed, but you do have the pip package manager for Python installed, you can just do a pip3 install on HTTP-IE, and that'll make sure that HTTP-IE is installed into your Bash script. And then down here at the very end of our script, we're going to call HTTP-IE, or actually just HTTP, and then we're going to issue a post command against our Telegram send URL, and then we're going to pass in a couple of parameters. The first is going to be the chat ID right here, and so what we're going to do is say /@ just to escape an @, and then we're going to substitute the value of channel ID, which is a variable that we're feeding into our Bash script. So now I can just type Trevor Software into my channel ID, and that'll be the target channel that we send a message to. Now, we also need to specify the text parameter. So I'll say text equals, and then we'll just do $text, and I'll put that in double quotes as well, just for safety, and then just say this is my message from Windmill. And so in theory, that should work. However, I did notice that sometimes you need to add in another parameter for HTTP-IE because it complains about standard input conflicting with the JSON parameters that I'm plugging in over here. So as you can see, it says pass ignore standard in to ignore standard input instead of using the JSON parameters that I have over here. So we'll just add on ignore standard in. We'll go ahead and save that, and we'll rerun our script. Now you'll notice that right now we are not getting any output from the HTTP command. All that's happening is we are getting the echo from line 10. So we'll actually just go ahead and get rid of that. And then down here at the end, we're going to add an echo and just echo an empty value right here. And that'll just fix a bug where we sometimes encounter a situation where the output isn't actually being printed. Now, if you remember from our debugging earlier, our token was actually set to kind of a weird value. I'm not really sure why that was happening, so I'm going to go back into my resource down here under my Telegram bot. And I don't know why this token value is stored in here, but it looks like it's actually linking to a variable. So let's go ahead and check out that variable, and let's make sure that we update that variable to my actual bot token. So we'll go ahead and just apply that update, and then we'll try to save a draft and rerun our script. All right, so since the resource is actually linking over to this variable called Telegram Trevor Software bot, I am going to go ahead and just directly inject the value of this variable rather than using the token from this workspace resource instead. So what I'm actually going to do is set token equal to, and then we're going to inject our variable right here called Telegram Trevor Software bot. So we'll just click on that to inject it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and assign the results of this curl command to my token here. Let's go ahead and save that, do a Control Enter to test once again, and hopefully this time it actually sends a message. And sure enough, right down there in the corner, you can see that my message was sent to my Telegram channel. Awesome. So now we've got the integration working properly with the script here. So all we need to do at this point is to build a simple user interface around this custom bash script that we've created so that we can send a message from a user interface in Windmill, pass it through this bash script, and ultimately get the message sent into the Telegram channel. All right, so let's go over to our home here. We'll create a new Windmill app. And this time we're going to create something like Telegram sender. And let's go ahead and add some UI components here. So I'll just do a search for text. We'll add in some text display here and just call this Telegram and then send message. And now we need to have a text input box so we can specify the message that we want to send to the channel. So let's add another text component. This is going to be a text input, however, and we'll move that below our header there, make that a little bit bigger. Also, we need to add in a button so we can send off our message to the channel. So we'll just bring our button right down here, and let's change the label on that to just say send message. And then what we need to do is just give these elements some names. Now, I don't have to name this text element because I don't plan on manipulating that, but the text input here, I do need to make sure I call this text message or something like that, just to give it a unique identifier. And then for the button, we'll call that btn send message. And so now what we need to do is configure this button to take the input from this text box right here and send it off to our bash script so the bash script can send the message to the channel. So what we're going to do is go over to the button details. So just click on the button in our component list right here. And on the right-hand side, we're going to see the event handler. So we'll choose a script that we want to use. We're going to use our most recent version of our Telegram script right here. And under the runnable inputs, this is where we can pass in values to each of the input parameters. Now for the channel ID, I'm just going to go ahead and hard code that to a static value right here because I only have one channel that my bot can work with anyway, but technically we could pass other values in there as well if we wanted to. But for the text that we want to send to the actual channel, I'm going to use the little plug here to connect it to my text box and then take the result property from that text box and pipe it into our bash script as that text variable input. All right, so now that we've wired up the button to grab the text from the input box and send it off to our bash script, let's go ahead and give our little application a try. So we'll do save draft, and we'll go over to the preview section right here, and I will say hello from windmill.dev. I am glad to be here. And now we'll just click on send message, and hopefully that'll send our message off to the channel. Now, for some reason, we're not getting our message from our channel here, so let's see if we can figure out what's going on from our latest execution right down here. So as you can see, just a matter of seconds ago, this execution was run. And it looks like for some reason here, we are just getting this token value printed out to the return value. So I think what we might have forgotten to do is actually to deploy the latest version of our script. So let's go over to our script, make sure we're in the edit view, and then we'll deploy the latest version of our script. So that's going to be the production version that's actually used by our application. Now we'll come back to our Telegram sender application and we'll test things out again. Say hello from windmill.dev and hit send message. And it looks like our script is running, and sure enough, there's our message in our channel from Telegram. So as you can see, this is a pretty easy way for us to connect a very basic web interface to external integrations. It could be Telegram, it could be a database platform, you could call cloud services by using CLI tools like the Amazon Web Services CLI or the Google Cloud G-Cloud CLI tool. You could use the Azure CLI tool. You can even call PowerShell scripts. It's a little bit more challenging to do, but hopefully in the near future here, we're actually going to see a PowerShell integration that's a lot more native to Windmill. So if you are a PowerShell developer, you'll be able to very easily develop integrations right here into Windmill applications. But that's how easy it is to grab your token from a variable in Windmill and then use that token for Telegram in order to call the Telegram APIs as a bot user and create your own custom interface to Telegram using Windmill. Thanks for watching this video and joining me on my YouTube channel. I do want to encourage you to join me over at youtube.com/Trevor Sullivan. Subscribe to the channel right here. I've got my playlists right here for windmill.dev, LXD virtualization on Linux to create virtual machines and containers, open source software, PowerShell, Amazon Web Services, and I plan on adding a whole bunch more videos to this channel in the future. So please subscribe, and then also head over to the community tab here where you can view these quiz questions, figure out what kind of knowledge you're really good at, figure out where maybe you need to do a little bit more studying, and just use these quiz questions as a way to gauge where you're currently at with various technology solutions. So in any case, we'll see you in the next video, and take care.